It's the early hours of the day. An 18-year-old, France Hoang, puts his belongings in the back of a pickup truck. He looks back at his house and sees his parents staring at him through the window, disappointed and angry. And on the other side of the street, France sees an Army veteran watching him from his driveway. The veteran salutes the young man. France is torn, not sure what to do. He gets in his pickup and drives away. As he leaves, he is lost in his thoughts. This is a key scene from the 2019 short film, American Refugee, which dramatizes a key moment in the life of France Hoang, a Vietnamese immigrant who is torn between this devotion to his family and his desire to attend West Point Academy to serve his adopted country. Earlier in the film, France, played by actor Justin H. Min, has an argument with his father, portrayed by Yang Kim. France has just announced that he's accepted a spot at West Point, upsetting his father. The family had risked everything to escape from Vietnam in the final days of the war, and his father wanted something different for his son.
What? I'm supposed to just do what you want me to do?
That is the honorable thing. France, you are number 1 in your class. You could go anywhere in the state for free.
West Point is honorable, and it won't cost you a thing.
If you go, you are no longer our son. We will disown you. No more discussion. You will not go. Final!
France initially decides he'll stay home, but then he has a conversation with the traumatized Vietnam vet who lives across the street, played by the film's writer, Jack Kennedy. The old soldier has just gifted France his Purple Heart.
I didn't know why we were there. And you came along. I watched you grow up. Well, if that whole war were fought just to save you, it was worth it.
The veteran tears up as he pushes France to go to West Point.
You stay. You make it through. And God willing, one day, you'll be able to pay it forward so some other kid can live here in Uncle Sam's sanctuary.
The film then flashes forward a decade later to 2001. Now a soldier, France is patrolling the Afghan countryside and runs into a small boy. France looks down at him. The boy smiles back, a look of hope gleaming in his eyes. And France realizes he made the right choice. France Hoang graduated at the top of his West Point class and has gone on to have an incredible and diverse career, with 2 stints in the Army, a flourishing law practice, and as co-founder of a number of tech startups. And he chalks all of that up to that decision he made back in the summer of 1995. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with France Hoang to discuss the lessons he learned during his Army career, how he believes AI can be used to aid students and teachers around the world. And yes, we'll find out if he ever patched things up with his parents. I'm Carrie Varo-Heikis, and this is Army Matters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Army Matters. I'm your co-host, the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, SMA retired, and Daniel Dailey. And I'm here
with your good friend, Daniel A. Dailey's best buddy, Lieutenant General retired Leslie C. Smith, the 66th Inspector General. Dan, how you feeling, man? What What state of mind are you in?
I'm a little jet lagged,
You are, me too. I've
got a second win though.
You got a second win.
Second win. Yeah.
Second win. Where did we just come back from?
To Germany.
Deutschland.
We did the first ever AUSA Land Euros.
And it was a home run.
Run.
If I don't say so myself.
It was a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good show though. It was a good show. So
that's right.
that's right. Yeah.
Well, what are we talking about? What's our podcast about today?
Well, I'm going to do something we rarely do on this show.
You're going to ask me a question?
I'm going to ask you a series of questions.
Of course.
Yes.
You always have to ask me a question, just like a
Okay.
little brother always does.
All right.
Hey, Les. Hey, Les.
Hey, Les.
Hey, Les. Yes, go ahead.
Here we go. First question number one. Get
Yes.
serious now.
I am serious.
This is for the record.
For the
Score.
record. Dun, dun.
Did you ever consider becoming a lawyer?
No.
Why?
Because I never really thought about it. I mean, I thought being an accountant was good enough. So accounting majors was
I mean,
was a
it
skill.
never crossed your mind. It was like never
No.
like maybe
No.
an idea or anything. No.
Only type of lawyer I probably would be like a intellectual property person or something, like some type of litigator with that type of thing, or a mergers and acquisition guy. I wouldn't be like a defense counsel or a prosecutor. How about you?
Criminal law, no.
Yeah.
That's not you.
No.
That's not you.
How about you? I could see you being a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm a debating kind of person.
Yes, you are.
I am.
Yes.
I am.
A pain in the debate. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I could see you as being a lawyer. A pain in something, but
Yeah.
okay.
I would say that I probably had considered it.
Yeah. What type of
Yeah.
lawyer do you think you would have become?
Oh, I'd definitely have to be one of those high profile
Right.
trial defense
With
lawyers.
the fancy suits and everything?
Yeah.
You
yeah.
can't handle the truth. Okay.
Yeah. So the reason why we're talking about becoming a lawyer, let's see if you can guess. Why?
I'm going to tell you, our guest today, his family did not want him to not only join the Army.
That's right.
But
But
not-
it didn't hold him back, though.
No, it
because
didn't.
When he did, he ended up becoming a lawyer.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who worked in the White House, Les? How about that?
What?
You ever work in the White House?
No, I've been to meetings at the White House and OEOB, but no. Have you ever worked at the White House?
No. I had meetings there.
Dan, this guy has more degrees than the thermometer. And his family didn't want him to join West Point.
But I think he turned out all right.
He did.
He did. Well, you know what? Let's bring him on the show.
All right. France, welcome to Army Matters, brother.
Great to be here, General. Great to be here, Sergeant Major.
So, France, before we get started, and we are going to get to talk about all the amazing things that you've done throughout your Army career, like going to the White House and a thing called BoodleBox. But first, I want to ask you about the film, The American Refugee. Tell me, what did it feel like to be portrayed on the big screen?
What? Movie star.
Yeah, it was unreal, Sergeant Major. Seeing somebody else play you and seeing a moment of your life through somebody else's interpretation was pretty unreal.
Who played you?
It was a now famous actor, Justin Lin. He's in Umbrella Academy, if you've ever watched that.
Ah, very cool. You've made
Way
it.
better looking than I am, Sergeant Major.
Yeah, you've made it when somebody plays you. Yeah.
All right. So France, you went to West Point against the wishes of your parents.
That's right. Yeah, I was a refugee from Vietnam. I came over here when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Grew up in this great country, wanted to give back. And somewhat understandably, looking back on it, my parents were opposed to it, right? They escaped a war-torn country, came from Saigon to the shores of the U.S. They didn't want their son to have to experience the hardships they did. And they viewed war very differently than we view war, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you patch up things with them?
Yeah, they ended up coming out to West Point. Towards when I graduated,
Okay.
they got an invitation from the superintendent himself to come to my graduation. So that was the first time we saw each other in 4 years.
And so what did they think?
I think West Point has this amazing ability to just really change people's minds in a lot of different ways. If you're not familiar with the military, or if you're not familiar with the academy itself, I think when they came, they realized that what I chose was a life of service. that really went a long way.
So let's back up a little bit, France. You and your family came over from Vietnam in 1975, and you were 2 years old. And I'm sure you don't have any memories of that, but
I don't.
Can you talk about the first time your parents told you about the moment they fled the country?
Yeah, it wasn't something they talked about a lot. I think for them, it was a very traumatic experience. But I still remember my parents, when we were growing up, just occasionally mentioning, when we left Vietnam. And the story eventually came out, right? My mom worked for the Americans. My dad was a South Vietnamese Army officer. And, April 23rd, 1975, we boarded a C-141 Starlifter and lifted it in the skies above Saigon and headed for Guam, and then later Pendleton.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So France, when did you realize that you wanted to serve your new country? And was it when you decided to attend West Point, or was it earlier in life?
It was earlier. When I grew up, I had a lot of mentors. Several of them were Vietnam veterans. I didn't realize at the time why they took an interest in me. I realize now, having served, and I look at, for example, Afghan children in a different way. And I realize now that they must have looked at me the same way. And many of them took an interest in me. And when I learned about my family's history, I remember one time when I was 13, I made a trip to DC. I stood in front of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and I was just overcome Sergeant Major. I realized that all these people had died for me, and I wanted to do something to give back.
Yeah. I grew up with a Vietnamese family that's about the same time left Vietnam for the same reason. And they ended up moving out of their hometown and became very successful family in California. Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So, France, you graduated in the top 1% of your class at West Point. So what was the most single hardest moment of the academy?
Yeah, so you may ask, why West Point? So despite...
I won't ask you that, but why don't you tell us why West Point?
Yeah,
because we've drunk the Kool-Aid already, brother.
Yeah, no, we totally drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Look, growing up, I had terrible eyesight. In fact, I needed a waiver to get into West Point. So the Air Force Academy is absolutely out. Also, I didn't know how to swim. So Naval Academy is out. So when I showed up to West Point, much to my chagrin, I found out that swimming is a graduation requirement at the academy. Yeah. And so I was stuck in a class called rock swimming because everyone there sinks like rocks. And I got my lowest and most proud grade at West Point in rock swimming, a D+.
Most proud? Why?
Because he needed a D+ to graduate, man. Yeah. Come on, bro.
Because it's not an F, Sergeant Major.
Yeah. It's not an F, that's right.
Hold on, so even with the D+, you graduate in the top 1%.
Yeah, luckily swimming isn't weighted too heavily.
Okay.
Yeah. It's elective.
So tell us about this outfit that you were forced to wear on our day.
So our day is the first day at West Point, and all you want to do is blend in. That's a good rule for the military in general. You just want to blend in. You don't want to stand out. On the first day of West Point, you wear this outfit with shorts on it, and then at one point you change into trousers to try them on. You change back into shorts. Well, when I changed in the trousers, I went back to go get my shorts, and somebody had taken my bag. And so I did all of our day, wearing trousers, which is like having a gigantic bullseye painted on your chest for 1,000 upperclassmen. Yeah. One of these things is not like the other.
The red sashes. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, my. Okay. That's pretty good.
Well, France, you eventually learned how to swim, obviously not very well from the grade you received, and then you went into the Army. And after serving in former Yugoslavia, you became the Deputy Chief of Police and then a SWAT commander at Fort Leavenworth. This is an incredible story. How did you end up in those roles?
So one of the great things about the Army, right, is you can do so many different things, even in a short Army career. My first 5 years, I led America's Sons and Daughters as a platoon leader and a peacekeeper in Bosnia. Then I got to be a staff officer helping train the next companies going downrange. Then I got assigned by the Army to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where, poof, I'm a Deputy Chief of Police. And part of that job was leading SWAT teams for the Army. And so it was a fantastic experience.
Wow.
So help us out. What was your basic branch then?
And military police.
Oh, so, okay. So it was kind of natural. So they didn't pull an infantry guy and throw him in to be a SWAT commander. So
although they would do well.
Yeah, they would do well. They would do well. But, the Deputy Chief of Police, he was a military police guy. So
yeah.
So France, you served for 5 years, left to pursue a law career, ended up working at the White House, and then you recommissioned Tell us what led to that.
Yeah, I was finishing up my time at the White House, and a friend of mine at the White House, we sat down one day, and he goes, France, I don't know what you're going to be doing after the White House, but I'm in the National Guard, and I'm a Special Forces Company commander. My company's mobilizing in 60 days, and I don't have an executive officer. What do you think? And I was sort of like, what do you think what? And he goes, want to come along? And I was like, man, I put on a uniform in 9 years. I don't have a commission, and I'm not Special Forces. And he just kind of hand waved and goes, we could figure that all out. And so we did. After a 9-year break in service, I got recommissioned as a captain. With a few GO sign-offs, I got slotted into a Special Forces captain slot and mobilized with 20th Special Forces Group.
Nice.
So let me ask you this. So what would you think is the single greatest moment of your, not Army career, but Army careers, because you had 2 of them.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one, and you can only pick one, because people always go, I can't just pick one. You only get one, because I'm the sergeant major, and that's all you get. Just one.
The single greatest moment. Boy, that's a tough one, Sergeant Major. There's so many.
So give us 2. How about just give us 2?
I think after the second time when I was commissioned, and we were towards the tail end of our deployment, and we'd lost a couple of guys. We'd been through a whole bunch of rough operations, and bunch of my guys, a bunch of these Green Berets. Good, I had really no right to be an XO of a Special Forces company. I'm not, General, Sergeant Major. The Army works a certain way, right? You earn your chops certain ways. I got, an unusual opportunity, and a number of guys that came up to me and said, "We're glad you're here. We're glad you came along. Like, this deployment wouldn't have been the same without you. You made a difference."
Hey, so explain to our listeners. What were you guys doing that you can say?
Yeah. This is 2009, 2010. The Special Forces company I was a part of mobilized to go to Afghanistan. We were serving right along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border in a province called Khost. This is the, high point of the fighting in Afghanistan in the summer months, which is the toughest time to be there. That's why it was so intense. And so they're, National Guard and regular Army worked hand in hand, especially in special operations world, handing off to and from each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one final question regarding your Army career, sir. So what was harder to pass, Ranger School or the bar exam?
I'd rather take the bar exam 10 times over for the Ranger School again, particularly because I went to Ranger School Sergeant Major with 3 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And
boy,
that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
There's things you can cram for the bar exam. You cannot cram for Ranger School.
No, there's no cramming. As a Ranger myself, sir, I would tell you that if it was an annual requalification test, I would just mail my tab back. That's right.
Yeah.
So wait a minute now. You got a D+ for swimming at West Point, but you have to swim at Ranger School too. So how'd you do there?
Yeah. So and not only you have to swim, remember that you have to swim without showing undue fear.
That's right.
And that was the harder part.
Blindfolded off of a high dive. Yeah.
Off a high dive with the hat across your back, and you got to go down. Yeah.
That's right.
It's absolutely terrifying. And I couldn't show the terror. Yeah. Right.
And how'd you do?
I actually, that one I did not fail the first time. Amazingly enough, that was the one the test I did do. Because you know why, Sergeant Major? Because I was so worried about that, I probably over-prepared. I overcompensated. Yeah. It's the things that one of the things I've learned in life, it's the things you're not worried about that will bite you in the butt.
Right. Yeah, right. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to quit.
Did you know that as a member of AUSA, you have access to many benefits? From car rental to entertainment discounts, the opportunities are ample. Visit us online at ausa.org/benefits to learn more.
The Medal of Honor is the highest military decoration in the United States.
This medal is for the men who went down that day. It's for the families of those who didn't make it.
Recipients have done the improbable, showing immense bravery and sacrifice in the name of something much bigger than themselves. On Medal of Honor, Stories of Courage, you'll hear about these heroes and what their stories tell us about the nature of bravery. Listen to Medal of Honor wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back to Army Matters. Now, France, I'd like to jump into your legal career a little bit here. You had a very successful law career, which included legal counsel to the President of the United States. What did you learn during your time at the White House?
So you would think that working in the White House is all about like giving good legal advice and like coming up with all kinds of legal theories and stuff. Your job in the White House is actually not to necessarily create the answer. It's to ask the right question. And so my job in the White House was to see everything that was going on that I was responsible for and make sure that the right questions were asked and that somebody got the right answer. Generally, it wasn't me, actually. And so that was actually a change in my way of thinking, that actually questions are more important than answers.
You've also started your own law firm, though. And how difficult was it to do that? So when you got out of the White House, you got away from just asking the right questions. The law firms are much different. So tell us that story.
Yeah, look, being an entrepreneur, TV, film, social media portrays it. You know, you take this risk and it turns out to be super successful and it's an overnight success. Every overnight success is years in the making. It is a lot of hard work. And there's something called WIFIO. I can't use the full description of the phrase, but it's, you know, we're effed, it's over.
Oops.
WIFIO is the most common state of being an entrepreneur. Like at every moment, you think the sky is about to fall on top of you. And so it's hard. Sorry, Major. And I think it's hard because, you know, in the Army, in the White House, I always had somebody I could turn to. There was some higher up I could call and ask for advice. Or when you're an entrepreneur, it's all on you. It is the most, in many ways, the most lonely thing I ever did.
But why did you decide? Why start your own law firm?
Yeah, when I came back from Afghanistan, I had a good friend of mine. He's also an Army veteran. He and I had worked together, and he had started actually a law firm and this other company you mentioned, MAG Aerospace. And he was just getting off the ground. And when I got back from Afghanistan, he called me to a diner one day and says, "France, I'm starting these companies. I want you in. I want you in the foxhole with me as we start these companies." And so like many things in life, right? A buddy calls you up and you answer the call.
Okay. So you both were co-partners in the law firm and MAG Aerospace?
We were, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So tell us what MAG Aerospace does and talk about taking out second mortgages and maxing out credit cards. How did that go?
Yeah, MAG Aerospace is a company. It still does this. It operates planes, drones, helicopters, manned, unmanned systems all around the world. You know, we provide what's called ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. And you can't have an aviation company if you don't have airplanes. And so at some point, we had the opportunity to buy our first 3 airplanes, but no one would give us any money in general. No one would fund us. No one would loan us money. And so we ended up having to scrap together money ourselves. You know, like you said, credit cards, second mortgages, empty out 401ks to buy these planes to get the company started. And it was the biggest financial risk we'd ever taken. But it turned out well. MAG ended up being a very successsul company that did a lot of good.
Were you married at the time?
I was not married at the time.
You were not married at the time. So you'd have to explain to anybody.
No, some of the other guys were. One of the guys maybe took a second mortgage without talking to his wife. I don't recommend that. That is, you know, these things should be partnerships.
Yeah, yeah. Are you still part of that team, or did you sell your interest?
I am an advisor.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So now you're also the founder and CEO of BoodleBox, right? So can you tell us, what does that company do and how it uses AI to help us educate people?
Yeah, obviously we are undergoing a massive shift right now. AI is permeating through everything. And so
it's on steroids.
Yeah. We have built a platform, an AI platform that helps staff, faculty, students, professionals learn how to use AI responsibly and then use it for learning and teaching and work. And it's used by hundreds of colleges and universities and organizations to do just that.
Well, I got to ask, how'd you come up with the name BoodleBox? What's the
BoodleBox?
Yeah, so every West Point graduate listening to this knows exactly where that came from. So,
well, tell us then. Tell us.
So during your first year at West Point, you're pretty locked down, but you are allowed to get cookies, cakes, treats, and care packages from your family. And the nickname for that they send is Boodle, and you get to keep it in your room in a box, and that's the BoodleBox.
Nice. So it's automatically will be relatable to West Point graduates.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Boodle actually means a collection of things. And in my mind, right, like we're trying to collect all the best AI in one place and help people learn how to use it.
Luckily, it didn't end up being pogey bait.
Yeah.
Right. That is not a good name for a company.
No, but that's the Army translation of the BoodleBox.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So let's pull the thread a little bit on that one. So tell us about how it's using AI to help education. Tell us a little bit more.
One of the big problems about AI is not everyone has the same access to it. You know, one of the things you find out real quickly when you start using AI is the paid AI is better than the free AI. And in colleges, some students have access to the paid AI because they have money, and other students don't, right? They have to use the free stuff. And so one half of what we do is we enable everyone to get access to the best AI tools. And that equitable access is really important. You can't fight if you don't have the right weapons, right? You can't learn if you don't have the right tools. On the other half of the equation, part of the challenge of teaching, we both have done a lot of teaching and training in our time. It's really important. It's not what comes out of the training, it's what happens during the training, right? It's the process matters more than the product. Well, one thing that AI created was all of a sudden, all the professors could see was the product. They just saw what's coming out of AI. What's important is how the student uses AI. And so our platform, BoodleBox, enables professors to see how students use AI and you make that experience a learning experience.
So what excites you the most about AI, and what keeps you up at night about it?
Yeah, and I love the way you put that, General, because it does definitely do both. What excites me the most is we have the opportunity perhaps to spend more time on the things that matter. There's this idea of, the fancy term is cognitively offloading. In the Army, we just call it delegation. Right? We can now delegate things to AI that we used to have to do ourselves, right? A staff memo that used to take you 20 hours to draft can be drafted in 2 minutes. And so we can now spend more time on the things that matter by outsourcing in a responsible way to AI. Now, that doesn't mean AI replaces us. It turns out one of the things about AI that is counterintuitive is it's actually most useful when you already know what you're doing, right? What keeps me up at night is the worry that we're going to get this wrong. You know, we got the relationship with social media wrong because we relied it on ways we shouldn't. We could do the same thing with AI. We could end up relying it on ways that are irresponsible, that actually decrease what it means to be human. I want to fight hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. The AI bandwagon is running fast, though. It is. It is. As we wrap up here, we'd like to bring you full circle. You and your family escaped from Vietnam. It brought you here as a child. And then you went through this whole amazing life in America. And then in 2021, you founded Allied Airlift 21. Tell us about that and why you did this.
Yeah, so just a small point of correction, Sergeant. I was actually not the founder, but I came on early to help. August 2021, obviously Kabul's fallen. A bunch of our allies need help getting out. And the United States government wasn't able to do everything that needed to be done. And who stepped into that breach? A whole bunch of veterans and diplomats and former members of the intelligence community and everyday Americans who wanted to help our Afghan allies. And, Allied Airlift was one of hundreds of organizations that organized to do that. And we ended up helping hundreds of allies get out before Kabul airport closed down. And then me and a group of veterans ended up helping to organize the very first private charter evacuation flight out of Afghanistan after the U.S. left. And probably one of the proudest things that I've ever done is help 380 Afghan allies start new lives in the United States who came out on that flight.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So on that particular point, did your background with MAG Aerospace help you out at all? Because you had access to aircraft or access to people who knew about aircraft? Did that help at all?
A little bit general. Frankly, what ended up helping a lot more was connections. Connections in the sense of, what did we end up doing when, the stuff hit the fan? We called the buddies we knew from our Army days, people we served with Afghanistan, people we went to, I recruited 3 of my West Point classmates. I called soldiers who I'd worked with. The Army network and sisterhood, brotherhood came alive, beyond the uniform to help out.
Yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. Can you tell us about one or two of those children that whose story stays with you today?
Yeah, one of the Afghans that came out on that flight in September of 2021 was an Afghan who I went on a bunch of combat missions with. His name is Jabbar, and it took like 10 tries to get Jabbar out of Afghanistan. He finally got on that plane, and it was him and his wife and their 8 kids. And a few months back, I had the wonderful experience actually visiting them. They're starting new lives in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was there sitting on the floor of the living room, eating naan and chicken and talking and meeting their kids for the first time. And the youngest daughter is starting her first year at community college, and asked her what she wants to do. And she said, I want to be an international relations lawyer and work in human rights. And I was just blown away by this young woman who is starting over again in America, and that she's already thinking about giving back. And that's America, right? America answers with service. Even somebody who had been in America 3 years already wants to serve.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So I got one last question for you, sir. I mean, you're a refugee immigrant to this country. You've done very well. Immigration is a huge topic in our society today. What advice would you give a young immigrant to this country?
Yeah, be thankful for the life you had, because every immigrant has a superpower. We know that there's an alternate universe where we're not in America. So every day I'm in America, I'm grateful. My life is filled with gratitude. Then the question becomes, what do you do with that gratitude? And I go back to service. Right? Immigrants start companies. They go into public service because we want to give back to this country and its ideals. And I think there's tremendous power in that. And for an immigrant, you have the opportunity to make a difference, not just for yourself and not just for your family, but for your new home. But I don't really, frankly, need to tell an immigrant that. Almost every immigrant I talk to just knows it in the depths of their heart already.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, though. It's important, sir. Well, thanks for all your service and your sacrifice, both in uniform and out. I always said you don't have to wear a uniform to serve this country. You just got to serve this country, right? So, and God bless you, and hope in your third quarter, there's beautiful horizons ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Sergeant Major.
Many of our listeners know that AUSA hosts its annual meeting and exposition every October, attended by our members, top Army officials, and soldiers from armies around the world. Well, in today's chapter spotlight, we focus on our Arsenal of Democracy chapter and a special event they held in conjunction with a different annual industry conference. On April 10th of this year, the chapter hosted its annual member breakfast at the Macomb Community College on the final morning of the Michigan Defense Expo. The event featured fantastic food, along with networking and speeches. The highlight was a keynote address by Brigadier General Ravindra Wagh, the Assistant Adjutant General of the Michigan Army National Guard. His powerful talk discussed the challenges and opportunities shaping the future of national security, while also thanking the chapter for its ongoing support of the National Guard. The event was well attended and enjoyed by all. Kudos to Chapter President Chuck Cocker and the entire chapter for another great event and its continued support of the Army. If you or your chapter would like to be profiled on the show, please email us at podcast@ausa.org.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. AUSA's Army Matters podcast is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army Connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General retired Les Smith and SMA retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Viral-Hackes. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnack is the associate producer and supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Viral-Hackes and LaSharon Duncan. Special thanks for the clips used in today's episode from the 2019 short film American Refugee, courtesy of producer Jack Kennedy. Be sure to subscribe to the Army Matters podcast wherever you find your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Wreaths Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the iHeart Radio app, the Audacy app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Wreath. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. I'm LaSharon Duncan, hoping you have a great Army day. Hooah!